By the power vested in me, I hereby constitute this assembly as a legal congregation of the University of Pretoria. During this assembly, degrees and diplomas with all associated rights and privileges will be conferred and awarded on the candidates whose names appear on the program. Please take your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, we request you to join us in silent prayer or meditation to give thanks for the achievements of our students. Thank you very much. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, graduates, one of the duties of the Chancellor of the University is to officiate at graduation ceremonies. That is most inspiring and uplifting role. Twice a year in the autumn and spring, the University of Pretoria celebrates the success of our students at a series of graduation ceremonies. I'm delighted to welcome you to this afternoon's ceremony where we are celebrating the achievements of students of our Faculty of Humanities. A warm welcome to all the parents, families and friends, and our diplomats and graduates. We are honored to also have in our midst the Dean of the Faculty of Humanities, Professor Vasu Reddy, the Deputy Deans, Professor Henny Stander and Professor Max Skuman, heads of departments, professors and staff of the Faculty of the University, the representative of the Student Representative Council will present the SRC Academic Honorary Colors. Welcome to the University Sports Campus, home to record-breaking athletes and winning sports teams. We are especially proud that this week that a UP student, Tarjana Skunmaka, won the women's 100 meters breaststroke at the Commonwealth Games on Australia's Gold Coast. In addition to the 200 meters breaststroke on Saturday, Akane Simbine and Eriko Branches, also from the Turkish Athletic Club, on Monday afternoon during the 100 meters athletics final of the Games, raced to win the gold and silver medals respectively. These are exceptionally remarkable achievements. I think it's appropriate that we applaud them. Ladies and gentlemen, by the time the last University of Pretoria student graduating during the 2018 student graduations is kept at a ceremony to be held on 8th May, we will have had a total of 32 autumn graduation ceremonies, during which we'll have conferred more than 11,423 degrees, diplomas, and certificates. Among them, 202 doctorates and 1,289 master's degrees. I'm also proud to announce that the university has improved its global position significantly in 4 of the 5 broad subject areas in the latest QS World University Rankings by subject report published in February this year. Overall, University of Pretoria is ranked in the 501 to 550 rank range, with around 26,000 universities globally. This puts UP in the top 1.9% of universities worldwide. In the social sciences and management, ranked 255, the university moved up 87 places, while in arts and humanities, ranked 264, the university improved its position with 61 places. The QS World University ranking rank the top tertiary institutions around the world against several indicators, including academic reputation, employer reputation, number of citations per faculty, student to faculty ratio, international faculty, and international students. This allows the quality of universities to be compared and ranked against their peers. In addition to scoring and ranking universities on their overall results, QS also publishes separate subject rankings. The improved ranking of University of Pretoria shows that we see ourselves as a key player in our nation's economic growth and social development, exerting influence through three major pathways: teaching, research, and engagement with and service to society. More importantly, we are particularly aware of the contribution we can make in redressing pre-existing inequalities to advance social justice in our country and beyond. In line with the University of Pretoria 2025 strategic plan, we are able to record progress in each of these pathways. I am encouraged to see how transformation has become central to everything that the university is achieving, from its business processes to institutional culture and curriculum reform, to its progress in facilitating student diversity, access, and success. Graduates, your presence today provides all the proof you need to show that you have met the highest standards of quality and excellence, which are the hallmark of the qualification from the University of Pretoria. In this respect, I am pleased to inform you that today is the time to celebrate your success with those that supported you along your journey and bask in the pride of your accomplishments. We trust that during the time that you have spent at the Faculty of Humanities, and despite the hard work and commitment required to achieve success, you have accumulated happy memories, have formed friendships and networks that will last a lifetime, and have acquired values and work ethic that will serve you well in your future. With a qualification from the University of Pretoria, we know that you are well positioned to realize your career goals, whatever they may be. May I conclude by congratulating each and every one of you on your achievements and request all in attendance, parents and friends, to give you a big round of applause. Well, this graduation, we are going to start with the award of the Honorary Doctorate. It is now my pleasure to call on the Dean to present the candidate for the Honorary Doctorate.
Mr. Chancellor, I have the honor to introduce you to Mr. William Kentridge for the conferment of the degree Doctor of Philosophy honoris causa. South African artist William Kentridge was born in 1955 in Johannesburg. He is renowned for his animated expressionist drawings and films exploring time, the history of colonialism, and the aspirations and failures of revolutionary politics. In his oeuvre, the Gesamtkunstwerk finds appropriate expression with the mobilization of drawing, movement, sculpture, music, theater, and animation. He earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in Politics and African Studies at the University of the Witwatersrand, and then a diploma in Fine Arts from the Johannesburg Art Foundation. In the early 1980s, he studied mime and theater in Paris. Kentridge maintains that he is neither an outstanding painter, actor, filmmaker, or sculptor, but rather an animateur in whose work the skills of the painter, actor, filmmaker, and sculptor are staged collaboratively. His ability to combine all these elements manifests in his widely acclaimed work in opera and theater, most notably the production of The Magic Flute, his first grand-scale opera project, and more recently as the director and co-designer of The Nose at the New York Metropolitan Opera. Kentridge first achieved international recognition in the 1990s with a series of short films titled 9 Drawings for Projection. Who can forget his iconic fictional characters, Soho Eckstein, Felix Teitelbaum, and the miserable Ubu stumbling across a bleak dystopian Johannesburg landscape in the wake of apartheid? He subsequently widened his thematic range, expanding beyond the local to examine political revolutions as universal traumas. His oeuvre charts a universal history of war and revolution, evoking the complexities and tensions of post-colonial memory and imaging the residual traces of destructive policies and regimes. Yet, he avoids becoming didactic. Instead, he creates, in his own words, an art of ambiguity, contradiction, uncompleted gestures, and uncertain things. Despite global acclaim, Kentridge has never lost his uniquely South African and African outlook of the world. Kentridge's works are owned by institutions all over the world, and he has hosted numerous solo exhibitions worldwide. Kentridge has become an exceptional and outstanding envoy for the arts, especially in a context of post-truth, where his work does not necessarily create uncomplicated truths, but always works towards discovering meaning. Mr. Chancellor, I request you to confer the honorary doctorate on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy, honoris causa, with all associated rights and privileges on William Kentridge. Congratulations. Dr. William Kentridge to address the Assembly.
Thank you, Mr. Chancellor, honored guests, parents, families, students, but now not just students, but graduates. Yes, it is fantastic. It's a day to feel fantastic about. But I must confess it's with some embarrassment that I stand here today. There's been so much bad advice, so much bad wisdom, so much bad certainty from middle-aged white men that have beleaguered us for so many generations that I feel I have to be very quiet in what I say. So I have no great advice, I have no grand truths, but I thought I would talk about myself and the daily activity of what it is to be an artist. But first I want to talk about failure. And this has to do with matching one's ambitions to realities, who one is and who one wishes one could be. When I was 3, I was told that I've been reported that I wished to be an elephant, and I failed at that. When I was 15, I wanted to be a musical conductor, but was told that you had to be able to read music to be a conductor, so I failed at that. I was an artist till I was 21, but then thought I had nothing new to say, and I stopped being an artist and tried to be an actor and went to theatre school. But after 3 weeks in the theatre school, it was clear I should not be an actor. And then I came back and tried to be a filmmaker in the South African film industry, but that also failed. And at the time, these were all felt as miserable failures, not as stages that one went through. And years later, I came back to being an artist. I would say I was reduced to being an artist. All the other things I'd hoped I'd be were not possible. But there is a way in which one can say one is rescued by one's failures. If I'd been a slightly less bad actor, I could have been an unhappy actor all my life, never getting the roles I wanted. If I'd tried to be a musician, I'd have been such a bad musician. So in the end, at the end of it, one can say one is rescued by one's failures, and that everyone's biography can be written in terms of failures they've gone through at the time. So I was 30 before I knew what I was going to be doing. So I know there's often a panic as you finish university. So there's been a structure to my life till this moment, but now the world is there and I've got to know what I'm doing. You do, but it sometimes takes time. And when things don't work, you have to have a longer perspective that the next thing may well be where you find yourself, and not only find yourself, but find the purpose and the use of the things that weren't a success before then. So to bring it into the studio, and what I can talk about is what one does in the studio every day. And the artist studio is many things. One of the things is it's a safe space for stupidity. You're walking around drawing stupid images and no one is there saying, well, what does that mean? What does that mean? The image and doubt is given the benefit of the doubt. Things are allowed to emerge slowly. And you can think of the studio, the physical space, the 12 meters by 8 meters or 4 meters by 3 meters, as a kind of enlargement of one's skull. So on the studio you have many different things. You've got newspaper photographs cut out, you've got a text that you like, you've got a postcard, you've got emails that have been sent to you, you've got the drawings you were working on yesterday. And the work is a movement between these different parts of the studio, taking an idea from one thing, connecting it to something else. It's a bit like the ideas in our head where instead of a 5-meter walk across the studio, you've got a 3-centimeter journey of a synapse from one part of your brain to another, one idea connecting to another. And so the processes that we all have, which are invisible in our head, in a way become physical and practical in the studio. It becomes a kind of a demonstration of how we think. And so if we look at the things in the studio, in a way it gives us a clue to who we are. So one can say in one sense that the world comes into the studio in the form of the radio that's on, emails you get, Facebook posts, things you're reading on Instagram, yesterday's drawings, all the different both physical and immaterial things come into the studio. This is the world coming in, and the world gets taken apart and cut into fragments and put together as a collage, a bit of this photograph, something of that drawing, a memory of a book that you've just finished reading comes into the picture. So the world is fragmented and then rearranged in the studio, and then sent back out into the world as a film, as a drawing, as a song, as a text. And that process of absorption, churning it about inside, using who you are to do it, and then sending it out, is the essential activity of what it is to be an artist. And what I would suggest is that this, in fact, is a model of how we all have to be. So to give one clear example, in the studio you make a drawing, and then you step back from the drawing and you look at the drawing, and you're split into two people. The fool who's done the drawing and the clever person who stands back and can say, I can see that's not a good drawing, go and fix it up. And there's this movement. It's like when you've written essays. I'm sure that everyone here has had the experience of typing this great essay, and the next morning you reread it, and you say, that's not me. Some other fool wrote that essay. I would have written a much more clever essay if I'd been writing the essay. And that split is who we are. And so what becomes clear in the studio is this job of the construction of the self that we all do. And this construction is many different elements. It's our history, the different histories we have as graduates and students with many different particular family and personal and larger social and historic trajectories that have got us here. It's a question of being filled with different role models that we've seen that we would like to emulate, that we feel are sitting inside us. And each of us have different particular heroes, both in the social world, in political heroes, in academic heroes. There is a sense of all of them trying to fill inside us. It's not just people outside. There are elements that come into us from them. We're constructed also out of our dreams, both our general dreams of what we hope for, but also our practical dreams. The dreams we have. You know, the dream where you're trying to run, but your legs just somehow can't move, or the dream where you're writing your matric maths exam again. These feel so personal and so part of us, but we understand that these anxieties are shared. This job of constructing ourselves is what we all have to do every day. The 3 a.m. anxieties about how to solve all the problems you're with. And even you, blessedly young as you are, who can sleep through anything, these 4 a.m. anxieties will at some point reach you. Because this is what it is to be human. To understand the difference between having to appear as a single coherent body, but knowing how we are made up of all these different things churning inside us. This is what it is to be human. Who will I become? When will it happen? Good or bad? When will it happen? So we have to understand that we are all constructing ourselves every day. We get up and all these different fragments have to be arranged into us to go forth into the world. And that means, firstly, be kind to yourself. A state of uncertainty, of anxiety is deeply built into all of us. And to have none of that is to simply be closing yourself off to who we are. So it's be kind to yourself. But secondly, understanding this, it is about being kind to others. Understanding that everyone is involved in a huge struggle every day to overcome all the problems that surround them. Even the people who seem most certain, most authoritative, have these own anxieties inside them. It means celebrate yourself. Particularly today, celebrate yourself for what you have achieved, for the way in which you have been able to construct yourself through many, many complexities and diversities and hardships, both practical, financial, psychic, psychological, and to have brought yourself to where you are here. So many odds were stacked against you, and you've come through them all. It means celebrate also your parents, your brothers, your sisters, your grandparents, your siblings, everyone around you who has been part of this journey of pushing you forward and enabling you to reach this point. Celebrate also all those unknown and invisible people whose work, whether it's in the gold mines, in the fields, in agriculture, is part of the raw material and the money that comes into the state to subsidize and make your education possible. You're all people who are the privileged and whose position here is thanks to the grace, to the work, to the labor of thousands of people invisible behind us. Celebrate yourselves. It is astonishing what you have achieved. Celebrate yourselves. You will never be as beautiful as you are at this age. And go ahead with the job of the construction of yourself. Understand that this is a job to be completed. It is never a job that is finished, but it is a job that we do all the time. And go out and transform your world. This is a job which is awaiting you all. Thank you very much, and congratulations.
Thank you very much, Dr. William Kentridge, for those inspiring words. Thank you for reminding us that we should not be too hard on ourselves. We should celebrate ourselves. Let's go out and transform the world. May we give him another round of applause? Well, thank you very much. Now it's my pleasure to call on the Dean to present the candidates who will be receiving degrees, diplomas, and certificates this afternoon.
Mr. Chancellor, the supervisors will now introduce the doctoral candidates.
Mr. Chancellor, I introduce to you Toyina Jao, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Doctor of Philosophy, with a thesis entitled Citizen Journalism and Conflict in Africa, the Ushahidi Platform in Kenya's 2008 Post-Election Violence, prepared under my supervision. In her thesis, the promovenda explored a people-centered approach to peace processes with the use of new media technology. The findings confirm the ways in which new media technology can both contribute to transforming conflict as well as inciting violence. But overwhelmingly, it was apparent that the Ushahidi platform contributed to conflict transformation. Ushahidi was an initiative of a group of bloggers that played a critical role during Kenya's electoral violence through crisis mapping, an early warning multi-agent consortium, a constitutional referendum, and election monitoring. In a time when many peace interventions are done for people instead of with and by people, this study highlights the importance of people-centered approaches to peace by the general public who are utilizing the ubiquitous new media to effect change. Mr. Chancellor, I request that you confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy on Khadija Olwatoyini Ajo with all associated rights and privileges.
Mr. Chancellor, I introduce to you Salmina Makwena Maepa, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Doctor of Philosophy with a thesis entitled Epiki, Sengwalo sa Sepedi go hlokometše diponagalo tša leo di leputswa le sebilwane, prepared under my supervision. In a thesis Epiki, Sengwalo sa Sepedi go hlokometše diponagalo tša leo di leputswa le sebilwane, the promovenda focused on the characteristic features of Sepedi epic poetry as defined by various theories with the aim of aiding the study involving Sepedi epic poetry. The major features examined were content, structure, and style. The main aim of this study was to illustrate how Sepedi epic differs from the other types of poems, narrative poetry, heroic poetry, ballad, and praise poetry. The study provided insight into the content of epic narratives, particularly in Sepedi poetry. The study also did a detailed discussion and criticism of existing views on epic narratives. The study developed a practical method for use in the analysis of epic narratives with special reference to Sepedi poetry, which may also be used in other African languages. This method was illustrated by looking at public Sepedi epic narratives. Mr. Chancellor, I request that you confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy on Salmina Makwena Mayepa with all associated rights and privileges.
Mr. Chancellor, I introduce to you Ruth Marambadoro, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Doctor of Philosophy with a thesis entitled Transitional Justice and Reconciliation in Zimbabwe, a case study on tradition-based approaches in 2 local communities, prepared under my supervision with Professor Alois Mlambo as co-supervisor. In her thesis, the promovenda explored questions of violence and reconciliation from the perspective of the communities in 2 districts in Zimbabwe, Bahero and Mudzi. The study found that the way community members in the chosen case studies perceived transitional justice resonated with notions of UNU or Ubuntu, which sees the community as being made up of a complex network of relationships rather than as individual perpetrators and victims. This led her to question the dominant Western-centric interpretations of transitional justice, arguing that they are not sufficient in meeting the justice needs of conflict-stricken communities. Her research adds to the growing body of scholarship that questions prevalent transitional justice theory and practice by bringing to the fore the tradition-based grassroots justice practices used by local communities to foster social harmony and restore human dignity. Mr. Chancellor, I request that you confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy on Ruth Mora Bandoro with all associated rights and privileges. Congratulations.
Mr. Chancellor, I introduce to you Alet Olivier, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Doctor of Philosophy in Linguistics with a thesis entitled Authorial Voice as a Writing Strategy in Doctoral Thesis, prepared under my supervision. In her thesis, the promovenda explored voice in doctoral writing. A synthesis is provided of voice theories and empirical studies on voice pedagogy, resulting in a heuristic framework for describing voice in academic writing. The qualitative case study that investigated supervisors and doctoral candidates' understandings of voice yielded the following themes: assumptions, enablers and impediments of voice, and voice as a construct. The empirical findings, together with the theory-based heuristics and existing submodels of voice pedagogy, facilitate the design of a pedagogical framework. It was concluded that any pedagogy of voice should be based on empirical data as well as the operationalization of theory. The main contributions of the study include a comprehensive synthesis of the theoretical and pedagogical literature on voice and a flexible pedagogical framework that can address the subject and level-specific needs of writing teachers, linguists, doctoral students, and supervisors. Mr. Chancellor, I request that you confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy on Aleta Petronella Olivier with all associated rights and privileges.
Mr. Chancellor, I introduce to you Jim Peterson, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Doctor of Philosophy and Anthropology with a thesis entitled Take the Land because the title deed has been given to us, reconfiguring ties between heaven and earth in a small Pentecostal charismatic church in Pretoria, South Africa, prepared under my supervision and with Professor Lisa Creel as co-supervisor. This study revolves around a small Pentecostal church in Pretoria, attended by a group of mostly gay, economically marginalised, Afrikaans-speaking Christians. It seeks to make sense of the religious experience and actions of the men and women who attend this church as they navigate their way in the post-colony. It complicates commonly held assumptions about whites, whiteness, and Afrikaners, caused by too narrow a scholarly focus on the middle classes. It contributes to current debates around the ontological turn in anthropology, as well as to a growing literature on the anthropology of Pentecostalism, demonstrating that the ways in which congregants engage with the sacred can help us arrive at a more nuanced understanding not only of the broader social field that shapes them, but also of Pentecostal Christianity in a neoliberal world order more generally. Mr. Chancellor, I request that you confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy on Jim Peterson with all associated rights and privileges. Congratulations.
Geagte kanselier, dit is vir my 'n voorreg om Astrid Margaretha Swenke aan u voor te stel. Sy het voldoen aan al die vereistes vir die graad Philosophiae Doctor in Kultuurgeskiedenis met 'n tesis met die titel Die evolusie van die historiese marmervries in die Voortrekker Monument Pretoria 1932 tot 1952 wat sy onder my leiding as promotor voorberei het. In haar proefskrif het die promovenda die konseptualisering en daarstelling van die historiese marmervries in die Voortrekker Monument ondersoek. Hierdie vries is in 1952 as 'n geïnterpreteerde voorstelling van die lewe van die voortrekkers en hulle deelname aan die groot trek voltooi. Die promovenda toon aan hoe die Sentrale Volksmonumente Komitee wat vir die oprigting van die Voortrekker Monument verantwoordelik was, die argitek Gerard Moerdijk, as ook die beeldhouers van die vries self, oor die geskiedenis besin het en bepaalde metodes ingespan het om tot 'n visuele vergestalting daarvan te kom. Die promovenda het deur middel van argivale bronnennavorsing 'n uitgebreide studie van die ontwikkeling van die historiese marmervries gelewer. Haar hoofbevinding is dat die vries 'n weerspieëling van die tydgebonde en geïnternaliseerde denkraamwerk van die 30er jare van die vorige eeu geword het, wat 'n gemitologiseerde en eensydige siening van die groot trek geskiedenis verteenwoordig. Geagte kanselier, ek versoek u dat u die graad aan die kandidaat toeken.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy on Margareta Swenke with all associated rights and privileges. Congratulations.
Mr. Chancellor, I introduce to you Emmanuel Isaac Tevolde, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Doctor of Philosophy in Sociology with a thesis entitled Encounters with Race, Eritrean Refugees and Asylum Seekers as Self-Identification Practices in Relation to the Experience of Racialization in Post-Apartheid South Africa, prepared under my supervision. In his thesis, the promovendus investigated how first-generation Eritrean refugees and asylum seekers experience ascribed racialization in South Africa, and how racialization shaped their self-identification practices in a racially stratified South Africa. 46 participants were interviewed in Durban, Cape Town, and Johannesburg. Some participants resisted imposed racialization and characterized the practice of racial self-identification as meaningless, asserting instead country of origin-based identities such as Eritrean, Habesha, and ethno-linguistically Tigrinya. Others adopted racialized South African identities as black or as colored, informed by social, strategic, and perceptual factors. Self-identification practices were not clear-cut and fixed, but situational and contextual. The thesis concludes that foreign-born refugee and asylum seeker communities in post-apartheid South Africa are both resisting and redefining meanings of race and practices of racial self-identification, and makes a significant contribution to literature on the future of racial states in the post-colony. Mr. Chancellor, I request that you confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy on Emmanuel Isaac Tevolde with all associated rights and privileges.
Mr. Chancellor, I introduce to you Gan Fu Yang, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Doctor in Philosophy, Linguistics, with a thesis entitled Problematic Encounters Between Chinese Nationals and Black South Africans in the Building Industry in Johannesburg, South Africa, and Intercultural Communication Analysis, prepared under the supervision of Professor Heinrich Orloff. In his thesis, the promovendus investigated whether Chinese nationals and Black South Africans have different cultural constructs regarding individualism, collectivism, the power distance index, contextual communication, attitudes to time and communication strategies, and whether these differences cause problematic encounters between the two groups in the building industry in Johannesburg. To elicit relevant data, 112 participants from Chinese companies were approached to respond to questionnaires and interviews. The promovendus proposes a new dispute resolution mechanism. Cultural dimensions should be considered to address contentious labor relations between Chinese and Black Africans, instead of simply observing labor laws as broadly claimed in political and economic circles. The major practical implication of the research is that it provides much needed answers to enable both Chinese and Black South Africans to understand the root causes of their problematic interactions better. The results should be applicable to a wide population interested in Sino-Africa relations. Mr. Chancellor, I request that you confer the degree on the candidate.
Congratulations. I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy on Gan Fu Yang with all associated rights and privileges. Congratulations.
Mr. Chancellor, I introduce to you Joel Marashe, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Doctor of Philosophy with a thesis entitled The African Religious Landscape, an examination of the Shona traditional beliefs and practices in light of HIV and AIDS and its ramifications for mitigation and care, prepared under the supervision of Professor Alfonso Groenewald. In his thesis, the promovendus examined the Shona traditional beliefs and practices in light of HIV/AIDS in the impoverished rural communities of Chipinge district in Zimbabwe. The study aimed at examining the traditional beliefs and practices the Indau people practice, have stopped practicing, or have modified due to the encroachment of AIDS epidemic into their social moral space. Grounded in the Shona traditional religious milieu and from a phenomenological approach, the study utilized a survey research design. 72 participants knowledgeable in their traditional mores participated in the study. Results show that pledged marriages, polygamy, and wife inheritance are harmful practices that expose people to HIV infections. Mr. Chancellor, I request that you confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy on Joel Marashe with all associated rights and privileges. Congratulations.
Mr. Chancellor, I introduce to you Blessings Masama, who has complied with the requirement for the degree Doctor of Philosophy in Development Studies, with a thesis entitled Intra-Household Gender Analysis of Cassava, bracket, Manhood Escalanta Grants, close bracket, Value Chains among Small Farmers in Tanzania, prepared under my supervision with Dr. Veronia Uzoke as co-supervisor. For his thesis, the promovendus investigated how household gender inequalities impact on women's participation, empowerment, and benefit sharing within cassava value chains. The study employed a triangulation approach involving household interviews, focus groups, and repeated household visits to investigate gender inequalities within rural households, drawing empirical evidence from Tanzania's smallholder farming sector. The study demonstrated that cassava value chains in Tanzania are highly gendered, with women being treated as mere household appendages who do not own or control productive resources. Taking the household as a unit of analysis, the thesis contributes to gender disaggregated empirical knowledge regarding women participation and empowerment in the cassava value chains in the smallholder farming sector. This theoretical work is applicable to broader development goals of eradicating poverty, food insecurity, and gender inequality, particularly in the small-scale farming regions in the developing world. Mr. Chancellor, I request that you confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy on Blessing Masama with all associated rights and privileges. Congratulations.
Mr. Chancellor, I introduce to you Muiponi Magdalene Sifuka, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Doctor of Literature with a thesis entitled Lenyalo la Setšo sa Bapedi ba Matala ba Motse, prepared under my supervision. In her thesis, Lenyalo la Setšo sa Bapedi ba Matala ba Motse, the promovenda undertakes to review the Bapedi traditional marriage system. The research focuses on the stages of marriage with more attention on the final stage, Gobeka. The thesis provides a method based on orality and performance, a record of oral discussions among elders who understand the customary practice of the particular marriage system forms the basis of this research project. The research of the thesis discovers that Gobeka is the stage in which the ancestors of a young man and those of a young woman were reported to have informed them that the child of so and so had arrived in the house of someone else in the family, and all the necessary marriage or stages had been carried out. Mr. Chancellor, I request that you confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy on Magdalena Sifuka with all associated rights and privileges. Congratulations.
Mr. Chancellor, I introduce you to Neil van Heerden, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Philosophy Doctor with a thesis entitled Misdaad, Fiksie en die Literaire Kanon in Afrikaans, 'n ondersoek na aanleiding van die romans van Dion Meyer, prepared under my supervision. In his thesis on crime fiction and the literary canon, the promovendus investigated the problematic relationship between crime fiction and the literary canon. In particular, the promovendus studied the novels of Dion Meyer, a popular and widely translated contemporary author of Afrikaans crime fiction. Firstly, definitions of the literary canon and the accompanying mechanisms of inclusion and exclusion implicit in canon formation were outlined theoretically, and then a number of subsystems were scrutinized: the publishing industry, media practices, translation, scholarship, and literary history and literary prizes, in order to gauge Meyer's relative status within the Afrikaans literary system. Because Meyer is often categorized as a writer of popular fiction, problems related to the field of popular fiction were also raised. A brief historical overview of the development of crime fiction was then put forward, as well as a typology with definitions of the most prominent crime fiction subgenres evident in Meyer's work. Issues with genre classification and terminology were addressed. And in the final key chapter of the thesis, Meyer's novels were analyzed to ascertain how the texts conform to the generic crime fiction formulae. or break with conventional genre expectations and boundaries. In doing so, the thesis highlighted the significant ways in which Dion Meyer's crime fiction collapses any simplistic distinction between the popular and the literary, thereby challenging traditional definitions of the literary canon. Mr. Chancellor, I request that you confer the degree to the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy on Neil van Heerden with all associated rights and privileges.
Mr. Chancellor, the following candidates have complied with all the requirements for the degree Master of Arts, African-European Cultural Relations. Dixon Ajisafe. In Afrikaans, Jan Stander with distinction. Meta Maria Viljoen. In African languages, Eric Nzimande with distinction. Lungile Mwango. In archaeology, Mpho Maripane. Alvord Nundu. Riachile Sengane with distinction. In biblical and religious studies, Abigail Siwele. Diplomatic studies, Siphumelele Duma. Nomzamo Malindisa. Shifiwa Nechituni. In English, Kirsten Day with distinction. Suzanne Jacobs with distinction. Michael Marie Linden. Maxine Twaddle. Jean van Heerden with distinction. In philosophy, Chantal Flores with distinction. In French, Christo Lombard with distinction. Carina Steenekamp with distinction. In Environment and Society, Jessica De Beer. Matt Johnston. Big Boy Zoe. In Applied Language Studies, Translation and Interpreting, Galal Ari with distinction. Naki Bio Gwene Jibril. Mr. Chancellor, the following candidates have complied with all the requirements for the degree Master of Historical and Cultural Sciences. Lekau Mguni. In History, Lerauto van Afebeeke with distinction. Isabella Fenter with distinction. Mr. Chancellor, the following candidates have complied with all the requirements for the degree Master of Diplomatic Studies. Malesela Leso. Ashley Shangare. Francois Theron. Mr. Chancellor, the following candidates have all complied with the requirements for the degree Master of Security Studies. Susanna Dietlefs. Ashley DeVos. Nkululeko Majozi. Melissa Mlambo. Ismail Samai with distinction. Mr. Chancellor, the following candidates have complied with all the requirements for the degree Master of Social Science in Industrial and Sociology and Labor Studies, Tabiseng Nkatao with distinction. In Gender Studies, Kaketso Matlibiane. In Development Studies, Lena Gronbach with distinction. Tariro Masamvu. Christopher van Rooyen. Mr. Chancellor, the following candidates have complied with all the requirements for the degree Bachelor of Arts Honours in Afrikaans, Annette Celier. Magdalena Duplessis. Sunel Diersema. Delia Rabi with distinction. She also receives the following prizes: the Tafelberg Publishers Prize for the Best Honours Student in Afrikaans, the Human and Rousseau Prize for the Best Independent Essay on a Literary Topic on an Honours Level, and the Attica Fear Prize for an Honours Student who excelled in Afrikaans linguistics. African languages, Ditebogo Mabulana. Siyabonga Nkomo. In Ancient Languages and Culture Studies, Marco Koch with distinction. Charlotte Sibanyoni with distinction. Ancient Languages and Culture Studies, Karel Boshoff. Archaeology, Timon Dutoit. Michelle Mouton with distinction, and she also receives the Dr. Hanish Book Prize for outstanding achievements in archaeology at an undergraduate level. Nicole Schutter. Ruan van der Merwe, Biblical and Religious Studies, Stephanie Swartz with distinction. German, Gert van der Vyver. In English, Nisrat Ghulam Muhammad. Mara Sneeman. Natasha van der Schijf. English, Harriet Bentley. Leisha Boyson. Michaela Champion. Lisa Duplessis with distinction, and she also receives the Oxford University Press Award for the Best English Honours Student. Kegan Gaspar. Karina Goede. Ulrike Hougaard. Ashton Kirsten. In philosophy, Mariangela Barker. Philosophy, David Barnard with distinction. Keir Challenor with distinction. Lindo Gushle Gama with distinction. Lauren Hamilton. Kirsten Ironside with distinction. Karabo Mayane. French, Laura Mayer with distinction. Sila Oduno. International Relations, Michelle Blake. Demi Lee Campbell. Jacques Depree. Ndayi Lekoji. Jacob Mashlangu. Stabile Mashlangu. Lorinda Marion. Kiriabile Mompei. Unarine Mudimeli. Slaganipo Ngubane. Prudence Nkomo. Gratitude Ramoncha. Tiana Sakota. Azar Sheikh Usman. Christine Smith. Ruramai Zvirevo. In Spanish, Monica van Dijk with distinction. In political science, Jasehuitse Patudi. Jesuloba Ilesanmi. In applied language studies, Christy Botian. Desiree Maria. In translation and professional writing, Nuria Shimau. Ilandri Jordan. Lorinda de Nobrega Monteiro with distinction. Mr. Chancellor, the following candidates have complied with all the requirements for the degree Bachelor of Historical and Cultural Science Honours in Heritage and Cultural Tourism, Refilwe Peha. In History, Jane Mampane. Mr. Chancellor, the following candidates have complied with all the requirements for the degree Bachelor of Social Sciences Honours Anthropology, Jeannie Blackbeard with distinction. Hayley Kundal. Paul Gray. Anna Human with distinction. Tracy Konyana. Molobogeng Mokwena with distinction. Medilade Nkosi. Toki Ramanitrera. Kieran Verster. Industrial Sociology and Labor Studies, Tato Kolokwane. Romance Rabasoto with distinction. Heritage and Cultural Tourism, Elizabeth Carletz with distinction. Michelle de la Harpe with distinction. She also wins the Getaway HCT Honours Award for Outstanding Performance in Heritage and Cultural Tourism at an honours level. Mitchell Kanyama with distinction. Helen Nell with distinction. Liesel Stein. Geographical Sciences, Geography and Environmental Science, Sarah Claven. Renate Kriel. Mashlatsi Mapeto. Tobile Ndaba. History, Andile Bem. Ashley Blandin de Chalaine. Simone Buertes. Ranjita Chetty. Dominique Detoy with distinction. She also wins the Historical Association Award for History for the best student in history at an honours level. Birger Foster. Jasmine Hurley. Tebogo Maslobongwane. Riatile Moncho. Graham Ertel. Development Studies, Beverly Chauke. Lindiwe Chibanda. Tiese Chiwaya. Lekobane Diako. Chietza Joboringo. Lisa Cusano. Anusha Laka. Margaret Mabona. Tanaka Maimba. Tawanda Matanda. Rindai Muzenachita. Matabo Senamolele. Valerie Chuma. Michelle Songa. Josiah Zuakinyu. Mr. Chancellor, the following candidates have complied with all the requirements for the postgraduate diploma, Heritage and Museum Studies. Cheyenne Lexi Cohen. Mr. Chancellor, the following candidates have complied with all the requirements for the degree Bachelor of Arts, Languages. Helena Katerina Jacobs. Tiffany Adlam. Yolanda Buerta, she also receives the J.L. van Skyke Prize for Afrikaans for the best third-year student in Afrikaans as well as the G.S. Ninabert Floating Trophy for the Best Independent Study by a third-year student on a linguistic topic in Afrikaans. Nopinki Botia. Dine Klaassen. Johannes de Lange. Shannon Deploy. Natasha Ferreira with distinction. She also receives the Hellenic Community Prize for the Best Third-Year Student in Greek, as well as the Pearson Heinemann Prize for the top final year English student. Megan Govender. Henri Gross. Annemarie Kruger. She also receives the AP Groewe Floating Trophy for the Best Independent Essays by a third-year student in the component Afrikaans Literature. Anne-Sophie Lourens. Janke Mulder. Desiree Norkia. Candice Robertson. Lucas Reers. Caroline Scrooby. Kelobugile Tlokwe. Siska van den Heever. Lizani van Wijngaard. Marlies von Wel. In English Studies, Marcel Coetzee. Heidi Conroy. Jason Day. He also receives the Pearson Heinemann Prize for the top final year English student. Maria Dorling. Marius Dreyer. Kayla Eachels. Eloisa Garnica. Mika Giechka. Samantha Hill. Alison Maletsky. Dineo Mochola. Janine Westhuizen. Ashley Reeve. Keegan Rothman. Heather Rufus. Amy Segius, with distinction, she also receives the Oxford University Press Award for the Best Final Year Student in English Studies. Jessica Shaw. Lauren Schultz. Ashley Seeger. Mbali Sebokedi. Gimhani Senadira. Tina van der Breggen. Mr. Chancellor, the following candidates have complied with all the requirements for the degree Bachelor of Heritage and Cultural Sciences in Heritage and Cultural Tourism, Solofelo Bunu. Fabio Carbonato. Leslie Carl. Peter Kutsia. Swane Leshalabe. Chiedza Mangezvo. Musa Wenkosi Vilakazi. Mr. Chancellor, the following candidates have complied with all the requirements for the degree Bachelor of Political Sciences in International Studies. Romario Afonso. Nancy Amisi. Lauren Apollos. Maxine Araujo. Jalalelo Bodichello. Tamara Changwa. Rest Deda. Catherine Dixon. Anele Dludlu. Rebecca Egan. Inez Fowl. Ryan Hambury. Sakene Kifuabala. Jotatso Majoro. Pindile Makomboti. Aobakwe Makoloka. Poroki Malaswena. Amuchelang Manaka. Tembekile Mandla. Kiriopetse Manne. Tulisa Mari. Nyashadashe Mashanyare. Kanyisile Maswanganye. Nolutando Matthews. Palesa Mbonde. Lungisani Mguni. Vusimuzi Mnisi. Sehetso Moepi. Lesejo Bohashwa. Kutuano Mohale. Husiame Molokwane. Kira Moreira. Boipelo Motsosi. Kundai Mtasa. Naomi Mujuru. Chrysantha Naika. Kahiso Ndlovu. Neo Nyaka. Pabalo Ponwane. Koketso Porto. Sandra Siakim Tiumo Keza. Akona Sikakane. Didintle Selapedi. Chrisanei Fenter. In political studies, Talia Awekumides. Tadiwa Chikengeza. Samara Kluter. Shoniz Dada. Desiree Lacude. Zapesheya Dlamini with distinction. Caitlin Langefeld. Nadine Lewis. Dora Madise. Tlamelo Majeni. Zenolo Malete. Leleti Maluleke. Madihomo More. Kolane Ndlovu. Tapsile Obi. Kamogelo Pasha. Lekwetse Petla. Letabo Sebetso. Patricia Sekotlong. Armand Slabbert. Elizabeth Sood with distinction. She also receives the CF Nieuwoud Award for the Best Third-Year Student in International Relations, as well as the J.L. van Skyke Prize for History for the Best Student in History in the third year. Martinez Swart with distinction. He also receives the Politica Award for the Best Third-Year Student in Political Science. Seshlane Totse. Kireditse Sokorebane. Cleone van Helsdingen. Mr. Chancellor, the following candidates have complied with all the requirements for the degree Bachelor of Social Sciences in Industrial Sociology and Labour Studies. Nadia Boomgaard. Johan Breitenbach. Samantha Buckland. Camilla Charsley. Cornelia Els. Trent Fairley. Daniel Gruvier. Mikhail Hughes. Yoba Malonda. Ansi Maria. Inyasha Maruta. Tafatswa Maruta. Chietza Mashoko. Patience Matsaira. Sarah Miwes. Yolanda Mji. Matebe Molaotse. Tapiwe Mudewe. Wayne Nkomazana. Rahman Ojetimi. Sehofatso Sekoma. Chanel Stowe. Zandi Ace. Chantay van Wyk. Bongani Zim. Philosophy, Politics and Economics, Cindy Friedman with distinction. Michaela Kwasnik. Anna Westhuizen. Yajna Siumahan with distinction. Stembile Soko. Joshua Weinhardt.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you have enjoyed the afternoon. Before we conclude, may I ask the parents, relatives, friends sitting over there for one round of applause in congratulating the graduates. Now, may we have the graduates congratulate and thank their parents, relatives for their support. Thank you very much. We have now come to the end of the proceedings. Before we close, I wish to invite all present to refreshments in front of this hall. You are now requested to stand for the singing of the national anthem and to remain standing until the assembly has been dissolved. Thank you. By the powers vested in me, I hereby dissolve this assembly of the University of Pretoria. Thank you.
You